What's up, enthusiasts? I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy because today is another episode of Jang Talks where I give you my unscripted opinion on a topic of my choosing. And today's topic is Nerf. Is it a cheap hobby? I think it's something we often throw around as kind of a blanket statement that Nerf is a cheap or affordable hobby when comparing it to other hobbies. Namely, paintball and airsoft happens every so often. But and that's topic in itself for another day, another video. But today we're just talking about Nerf and the costs of the hobby and whether or not it is really actually a cheap hobby. And I think there's some misconception. It's affordable to enter. It's a cheap entry point hobby. You can go and you can pick up a blast, you can pick up a few mags and pick up some darts for a decent price, and you're good and you're set, and you can play in stock games or maybe low end super stock kind of stuff, but you're not gonna have a super competitive high end blaster. And for a lot of people that's great, that's fine. That's they want to do the office wars. There's the rival league in Texas that does all stock rival stuff. There's plenty of games that are purely stock, and you can get in for 50, 75 bucks and you've got everything you need. Occasionally you'll buy some more darts, but you're good and you don't need to spend a ton of money on it. But to me, hobby implies ongoing interest and ongoing investment. And so to say something is a cheap hobby or an affordable hobby is kind of misleading, because as time goes on, you end up purchasing more and more. Now, your first purchases aren't as big, or might not necessarily be as big as other hobbies where, I guess we'll take airsoft or paintball, where you need to buy protective gear, masks, higher end or entry level stuff costs more essentially. So you have a higher investment to begin with, pods, extra mags, etc., etc. But things can easily get as expensive as those hobbies, because the more you're involved, the more you want to experiment with things, try different things. And I mean, you see the wall and trying to move out of the way, but there's just a row of blasters behind the chair as well. Like, that's getting a collection like that. That's not cheap. It's not affordable. It took me time and it took an investment to pick up these blasters and paint them. That costs money. Modify them. That costs money. So these things, it's the point I'm trying to make is that it's affordable to enter, but it does not stay affordable if you want to continue in the hobby and invest in the hobby, grow in the hobby with the hobby, because the hobby is changing. New blasters come out, new things happen. And you might not want to run the same thing over and over and over. There are the people that do, and that is great, and I am thrilled for them that they are able to just have their one or two blasters and be good. Because that's awesome. Being able to resist the temptation to buy new things and try new things, and you have what works for you. This is great, but for so many of us, we end up trying all these new blasters and modding different things, or wanting to do different paint jobs for the same blaster over and over again. And these cost money. They require investments in time, money, research, all these things that are kind of brushed to the side when people make the blanket statement that Nerf is an affordable or cheap hobby. That I think as a community we need to start kind of moving away from that statement and maybe adjusting it to say that we can you can get into the hobby for an affordable price. You can try things out. You can experiment. You can see if you like it for an affordable price, for a cheap entry cost. But if you plan on being in the hobby and being involved and staying involved, you probably will hit a point where you want to try something new or try something better. And that will require an investment in time and money and all of these things that detract from that Nerf is cheap statement. So I feel like I'm just going to drive this home over and over and over in this video. But if we take, a nice modded blaster and a kit to go with it, you're looking at hundreds of dollars. Like if we go through, I did a Fabu Strike, my modded Rapid Strike loadout video a few weeks back. So if we go through that, I can break down cost for you, and it gets scary quick when you start to realize how quickly you can spend money and just drop money on this hobby. So it's not like it's not like it's hard to do or hard to find the places to spend the money for this hobby. It's very easy to spend hundreds of dollars. People in Discord, the channel Discord we have been talking about like, oh, I wanted to do this blaster, and all of a sudden I spent hundreds of dollars on it just out of the blue. Like I didn't realize it was going to be that much, and it happens to all of us. We want to try these new things, these fun things, and we're like, oh man, I want to do that overhaul blaster, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's, a lot of money. It's not an insignificant amount of money. Now, sure, there are hobbies that are going to be far more expensive than this, but it is not cheap to do and maintain for most of us. See, you know what? Let's go through that Rapid Strike loadout I did. We've got the blaster. So the blaster itself has the Blastersmith's or Blaster Tech Stage 3 kit inside of it, which Kimber offhand was probably $40+. The blaster itself, we'll say 30 because you can get them on sale. The paint job, the prices of the paints, another probably $30-$40. So we're at like over $100 already for just the blaster. Then we've got the vest, which was probably somewhere between $80 and $100 because I had, custom embroidery done, and, it's a full handmade vest. So there's that. Then I had the double N mag stacks, which is another $50. So we're at like $300 already. That's not counting mags. And I had the dump pouch, another Condor pouch. So that's probably another $20+ right there. We've got 8 mags. We'll be generous and say that the mags are $5 each, which for the clear mags, they do not generally go for that cheap. So sure, we'll say 40 more bucks. I mean, we don't have to go through every little thing. We're easily at like $350+ for that loadout. And that's a low end for a loadout. I know people that have spent that much on just their blasters, and it's easy to do. So really, this hobby can become expensive quick. And I don't want to disillusion people and say that, yeah, this hobby is super affordable, and look at all the stuff I've got that is super affordable and cheap, and I put it together really quick. No, it's like, it's an investment over time. It takes time to acquire these things, unless you've got a ton of money. It's not something you can just go, oh yeah, on a whim. For most people, I want to drop several $100s on this because, why not? I'm just jumping into this. No, it takes time to kind of get involved in the hobby and find out what you want and decide, is it worth it for me to spend this money on this hobby? Am I going to enjoy it in the long run? Am I going to use this? Because I think it's time we change that statement of Nerf is a cheap hobby, because it's really not. Hobbies are not meant to be cheap. You generally continue to invest in them, and you continue to spend money on them, but if it's something you love or something you enjoy, you're okay with spending that money. You're getting enjoyment out of it, and that's what we need to be pushing, is that Nerf is a hobby worth investing in. Nerf is a hobby that you will enjoy for years. Nerf is a hobby that's growing. Nerf is a hobby that has a great community of people that are just so much fun to be around that you want to keep going to games and keep finding new games and bringing more people in. Nerf is a great hobby, but it's not a hobby I'd call cheap or affordable. And I think that's pretty much the best way I can put it. It's time to change the way we present the hobby. Because I think a lot of people, when they say cheap or affordable, it may diminish the impact of the hobby or the seriousness that people take the hobby. I don't want to say, seriousness as in like, oh, it's super hardcore, everyone's got to do this and this and this. No, I mean seriousness in that it is a real hobby. It is a hobby that thousands of us enjoy and invest our time, our money, our, creativity and free time into to create these things and host these games and make the communities and have the fun that we do. So I think we should really present the hobby the way it should be. And that is as a real and actual hobby and not a cheap or throwaway hobby that maybe some people could perceive it as when we call it cheap. I think that's where I'm going to leave this one. I feel like if I keep going, I'll keep going for a long time. But I hope my point got across, and let me know in the comments if you agree, if you have a different perception of this, different opinions on it. If you made it all the way through, thank you for watching. We just recently started the t-shirt store, so you can get this shirt, which is the HVZ on the head, tag the Z shirt, or a Jangular logo tee, or a Sock Ninja tee. The link is in the info, or I'll put a card up in one of these corners. I always point the wrong direction, but it'll be up there. As well, if you want to join the Discord community, that link will be in the info as well. We talk about Nerf, we talk about gaming, we talk about pretty much whatever comes up in there. So feel free to join us and come hang out. Of course, if you are under 18, get your parents' permission. Let's do this the right way. But yeah, if you're new to the channel as well and enjoyed this, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Have fun flinging foam, and I'll see you next time.